You're not supposed to see this. Not like this. Not from a character who's been part of your childhood for years. But somehow, SpongeBob just did something that completely breaks the image we all thought we knew. It all starts with a piece of animation that feels oddly familiar. The colors, the movements, the timing, everything about it screams early 2000s SpongeBob. That warm, nostalgic era where every frame felt handcrafted, where the humor was simple but unforgettable, and where Bikini Bottom felt like a place you could actually step into. At first glance, there's nothing unusual. It looks like just another Lost commercial, something that could have easily aired between episodes back in the day. The kind of thing you'd forget about, until you don't. Because just a few seconds in, something changes. Something subtle at first, but impossible to ignore once you notice it. SpongeBob stands there, smiling like he always does. That same overly cheerful expression, the same innocent energy. But then, in a single moment, everything flips, literally and figuratively. Instead of the usual goofy action or harmless joke, he raises his hand, and what happens next feels completely out of place. It's shocking, almost unreal, like your brain refuses to process it at first. Did that really just happen? Did SpongeBob actually do that? The kind of moment that makes you rewind, watch again, and question if it's even real. And that's where the mystery begins. Because this isn't just some random fan edit thrown together for laughs. No, this goes deeper. The animation style is way too accurate, almost identical to the original production quality. The movements are smooth, the expressions are on point, and even the timing matches the classic SpongeBob formula perfectly. It feels official. But at the same time, completely wrong, like something that was never meant to leave the studio. Something hidden, unfinished, or maybe even scrapped before anyone could ever see it. The way the character moves, the exaggerated expressions, even the pacing of the moment, it all feels like it came straight out of an actual production file from years ago. And that's what makes it unsettling. Because your brain isn't just reacting to the action itself, it's reacting to how authentic it feels. It tricks you into thinking this could have existed somewhere behind closed doors, buried deep in old animation archives. And suddenly, it doesn't feel like a fan creation anymore. It feels like something rediscovered. What makes this even more interesting is the history behind early SpongeBob production. Back in those days, animation teams would often create rough sketches, experimental scenes, and even joke drawings that were never meant for the public. These weren't polished, final versions. They were quick ideas, thrown together for fun, sometimes even pushing boundaries just to see what worked and what didn't. Most of these moments were never saved, never shared, and definitely never intended to be seen by millions of people years later. But every once in a while, something slips through. A concept, a sketch, or even just a rumor that something unusual existed behind the scenes. So when you see something like this, it doesn't feel completely impossible. In fact, it feels plausible. Like maybe, at some point, an animator jokingly drew something similar. Maybe it was just a quick gag between coworkers. Something they laughed at for a moment before moving on. But now, years later, that same idea has been brought back, fully animated, fully realized, and placed right in front of an audience that never expected it. And that's what gives it that strange sense of realism. It feels like a what-if scenario, except now, you're actually watching it unfold and then there's the reaction. Because when something like this starts spreading online, it doesn't stay quiet for long. People begin sharing it, questioning it, debating whether it's real or fake. Some are shocked, others are amused, and a few are genuinely confused. Because it challenges something deeply familiar. SpongeBob isn't just a cartoon, he's a symbol of a certain kind of humor, a certain kind of innocence. And seeing that image suddenly flipped into something unexpected creates a kind of emotional whiplash. You don't know whether to laugh, feel uncomfortable, or just sit there trying to process what you just saw. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the reason this works so well isn't just because of the animation, but because of what it represents. It takes something safe, something nostalgic, and adds a layer of unpredictability. And in doing so, it grabs your attention in a way that few things can. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about what happened on screen. It's about how it made you feel when you saw it. That split second where everything you expected suddenly changed. And once that moment hits, there's no going back. But here's where things start to get even more interesting. Because once the initial shock wears off, a new question starts to form: who actually made this? And more importantly, how did they manage to get it so close to the original style that it almost feels official? This isn't something you can just throw together overnight. It requires a deep understanding of the animation process, the character design, and most importantly, the subtle details that most people don't even notice. The way SpongeBob's face stretches at certain angles, the timing of his reactions, even the way his body moves during a simple gesture, it all has to be perfect. And somehow, it is. This level of accuracy suggests something very specific. The person behind it isn't just a casual fan. There's someone who has studied the show closely, frame by frame, understanding what makes it feel the way it does. And that's what turns this from a simple viral clip into something much bigger. It becomes a kind of recreation, almost like a lost piece of media being brought back to life. Except this time, there's a twist, something that was never part of the original vision. And that twist is what keeps people talking. Because it creates this strange contrast between old and new. On one hand, you have the classic SpongeBob style, something that instantly brings back memories. And on the other hand, you have this unexpected moment that completely breaks that nostalgia. It's like mixing two completely different worlds together, one safe and familiar, the other unpredictable and slightly uncomfortable. And somehow, that combination works. It creates something that people can't stop watching, sharing, and discussing. What's even more fascinating is how quickly something like this can spread. Within hours, it can go from being an obscure clip to something everyone is talking about. Social media plays a huge role in this, turning small moments into massive discussions almost instantly. And when something involves a character as iconic as SpongeBob, the reaction is even stronger. Because people don't just see it as content. They see it as part of their childhood being altered in real time, but maybe that's why it resonates so much. Because it taps into something deeper than just shock value. It plays with your expectations. It takes something you think you understand completely and shows you a version of it you never imagined. And in doing so, it reminds you that even the most familiar things can still surprise you. That even after all these years, SpongeBob can still make people stop, rewind, and ask, "Wait, did that really just happen?" As the clip continues to circulate, something unexpected begins to happen. The conversation shifts. It's no longer just about the moment itself, it becomes about what it represents. People start looking at it from different angles. Some see it as harmless fun, a creative twist on a beloved character. Others see it as crossing a line, taking something meant for all audiences and pushing it into territory it was never meant to enter. And that divide is what keeps the discussion alive. Because at its core, this isn't just about a single animation. It's about the idea of changing something iconic. SpongeBob has always been seen as a symbol of lighthearted humor, something that anyone can watch without thinking twice. And when that image is suddenly challenged, even in a small way, it creates tension. Not because it's extreme, but because it's unexpected. It forces people to reconsider something they've always taken for granted, and then there's the nostalgia factor. For many people, SpongeBob represents a specific time in their lives. A time that felt simpler, more carefree. So when something like this appears, it doesn't just feel like a new piece of content, it feels like something from the past being altered. And that can be both fascinating and uncomfortable at the same time. Because it blurs the line between memory and reality. At the same time, there's also a sense of appreciation for the effort behind it. Even those who find it strange can't deny the level of detail that went into recreating the style. It shows just how much impact the original series had, inspiring people to study it, recreate it, and even build upon it in unexpected ways. And in a way, that's a kind of tribute. Not a traditional one, but a modern interpretation of how deeply something can influence its audience. But no matter how you look at it, one thing is clear: this isn't something people will forget easily. Because it's not just another clip you scroll past. It's the kind of moment that sticks with you, that makes you pause and think about it long after you've seen it. And in a world where content is constantly moving, constantly changing, that kind of impact is rare. By now, the moment has taken on a life of its own. What started as a single animation has turned into a full conversation, a debate, and for some, even a piece of internet history. And the more it spreads, the more it evolves. New interpretations, reactions, and discussions continue to build around it, each adding another layer to something that was already unexpected from the start. But maybe the most interesting part of all of this is how it changes the way people look at SpongeBob moving forward. Because once you've seen something like this, it becomes part of your perception. Even if it's not official, even if it was never meant to exist in the original world of the show, it still leaves an impression. It becomes one of those moments that people reference, joke about, and remember long after the initial shock fades, and that's the power of something like this. It doesn't need to be real to feel real. It doesn't need to be official to have an impact. All it needs is that one moment, that one unexpected twist that catches people off guard and makes them stop paying attention for just a little longer. And in today's world, that's enough to turn anything into something unforgettable. So the next time you come across something that feels just a little too strange, a little too unexpected, take a closer look. Because sometimes, those are the moments that tell the most interesting stories. The ones that blur the line between past and present, between official and unofficial, between what is, and what could have been.